Hello, welcome to part one of my DIY motorhome slash campervan conversion, whatever you want to call it, DIY jobby. I did some drawings before I started on my computer, so this gave me an idea of the size of my items and services and seats and where I was going to put things. Also, the design of the beds and how they're going to work, and it just gives me something to refer back to as I'm doing the conversion. I recommend you do this so then you know exactly what space you've got to work with. So that's the first thing I did, as you can see from the pictures. Now obviously these pictures are based on an actual van, so you want to decide which van you're going to go with. I went with this, which is a Ford Transit Jumbo. Basically, there's a number of vans that you can choose from, but we are on a budget, so we had to think of how much money we've got to spend on the conversion, how much we've got to spend on the van. This fell into our budget. It also had extra high head height and loads of room, so we went with this. Now, it was a how do you pronounce it? Hospice. It was a hospice minibus, so it had a wheelchair lift in, a few seats. It was all boarded out with speakers and lights and what have you. But I had to rip all this out, and that includes the rails in the bottom of the minibus, which are quite difficult. I used an angle grinder on the bolts to remove them. As you can see from the pictures, that's me halfway through taking the rails out. I will say that is a difficult job, but they did all come out eventually, and it was a completely rust-free base, which was good. So ripping everything out is one of the first things you will need to do on your camper van, if it is an ex-minibus. If it's a bare van, then obviously you start with your bare van. So the first thing I did to my bare van was installed a large LPG tank, which is liquid petroleum gas. It's the stuff you power your fridges with and your hobs and stuff like that. I wanted a large tank because I wanted to run my fridge off it, and I wanted it to last me for weeks, not just for days, because if we're going away wild camping and we want to go for a couple of weeks trekking around, this tank of gas wants to last the whole duration. I don't want to be refilling it up because LPG gas stations are few and far between. I will say that the key to a successful campervan build is planning and preparation. So, for instance, the gas tank needs to fit in a specific place underneath your van. Well, that's what I did anyway. So I measured the cavity, the area of where I thought the gas tank would be safest, most secure and best fitting. I then went online and found a tank that fitted that space exact, and then, as you can see in the picture, mounted the brackets. So found a space for the brackets. 2 brackets go straight up and screw through the chassis of the van. See, the brackets and the tank need to be very secure because obviously it's an LPG gas tank. So in order for them to be secure and safe, I coated the brackets with rubber. So when I clamp the brackets around the tank, it holds it secure, as you can see. Here you can see my LPG tank in place. The brackets around it secure. It's all tightened and fitted. Ready for plumbing. So you basically, I'm going to be putting gas lines, 8mm copper pipe into the tank, and a fill-up station on the side of the van. That will come in another part, because now we're going to move on to the water. So I've got that in place. I knew that fitted. I'm now going to move on to the water tank. More parts purchased. This is my water pump, which is a pressure operated water pump. So basically it kicks in when you open a tap. So I went with a 90-litre water tank, fresh water tank for my campervan. I've ordered some parts for that. So we've got hot and cold 12mm pipe, and we've got a water inlet pipe. which is 20 ml, and a water gauge there, that white thing with metal rods off it, that is to tell you how much fresh water you've got in your tank as when you use it. And then I bought a cap there so you can just enter the tank to clean it out as and when you need to. So they're the parts I bought, and now fit them onto the 90 litre water tank. So I drilled some holes, cut them out, and put in place the parts I needed. As you can see, the Dremel, amazing tool, use that for nearly everything. This is the tank test. So you basically press that button and it tells you how much water you've got left in your tank. So you know when you need to go and refill, and you also know when you need to go steady on the water, i.e. just wash your pots, don't have a big shower, things like that. So here's the 90 litre water tank with all the parts fitted to it. You can see the pump there and the 12mm pipe. That pump will suck water up from the base of the tank. You've got the fill-up pipe that goes into the top corner, and then in the far right you have got the water gauge and obviously the cleaning cap there in the centre. I mounted my water tank with these brackets that I made. They're basically 4 large bolt threaded rods through the chassis of my vehicle, goes down the side of the tank, and then I got some steel plates drilled through there, and then they basically bolt onto the rods and strap up the tank. There's rubber on the bottom of the steel plates to prevent the tank from moving and to protect it from when I tighten up the brackets. So that is my tank fixed securely and perfectly level at the minute because it's on my drive. But obviously when you park in different places, you've got to take into consideration which way your tank is sloping, depending on which way the ground is sloping, so bear that in mind. So you have to be able to fill up your water tanks. So for this I have got a filling station on the side of the van. I've cut out a nice hole, which is scary at the time, but always go too small, never go too big, as a precaution. So the hole was cut, and then I have the filling cap which goes into the hole and screws in to a wooden plate behind it. This is attached to the 20mm fill-up pipe, and it also has a breather pipe coming. They can see the red tube there, that's a breather pipe. So it just, when you're emptying the tank, it gives it, it can breathe through the top, so the water flows out better, and that's the reasoning for that. So there it is, and that opens with a key, and basically you just put your hose in or wherever you are at the service station and fill up your water tank with 90 litres of fresh water. So the next thing I moved on to, another external part, is an extractor fan. Ventilation is very important within your camper van. Whether you have breath or whether you are cooking or just moist air, it all needs to come out. The thing I found was a motorized extractor fan that had a big fan there. It had a insect mesh, and it had like a tinted dome, so it wasn't too bright at night. This has different modes. It has a high speed, a medium speed, and a low speed. It can be forward to take air out or reverse to take air in. Great piece of kit. So a scary moment again, cut a 400 by 400 hole out the top of my van, prepped it with some surface prep, put in place, and we use Sikaflex. And Sikaflex is used on most of my external parts because it's just a brilliant product. It seals, fills, and adheres. So it's great, and there you can see it on the top. The roof was cleaned after I noticed how dirty it was, but you can see I've cleaned it where it adhered to the surface. And that's my extractor fan, all in place. Now there's stuff called sound deadening or soundproofing. This stuff is a foil closed cell material that sticks onto the metal of your van and basically stops sound coming in, sound going out, strengthens, insulates, just brilliant stuff. When I had placed this on the ceiling and walls and then a little bit on the floor galley where we're going to be walking, I noticed an instant difference. Just driving the van, I couldn't hear any rattles. Closing the doors was more like a thud rather than a tinny sound. I couldn't hear people outside. I couldn't hear traffic. Brilliant stuff. So this was an initial step that was valuable, and recommend that you do this. I used lots of this because a good night's sleep is important to me. Swivel bases. Now, these enable your front captain seats to rotate 360 degrees. And it's very valuable to have because if you want to maximize the space in your van, these enable you to swivel your chair around and face backwards. That turns that area into more of a seated living area. So I recommend doing this also. So here we have my captain chair. This is a cream leather Range Rover seat. I have adapted it to fit onto the swivel base that I purchased from eBay. And then the swivel base was adapted to fit onto the Ford seat base, which is underneath the chair there. It took some drilling and some steel and some bolts. I was going to get them welded, but in the end I realised that bolts and steel did the job, and if I ever need to remove them, I can easily do that by undoing the bolts. They took a while to do, but I think it was well worth it because they look the part. The two Ford fabric seats were taken out and replaced with these two lovely leather captain seats, which I'm proud of. And it's not that nice to sit in, you know. You can see them span around 360 there, and you can see the space that's creating at the front of the van. And there they are facing forwards in the driving position. I will say that these are the manual Range Rover seats. There is an option for the electric Range Rover seats, which are electric up, down, electric forward, electric tilt, electric everything. So, as you can imagine, wiring up some electric seats that have been taken from a Range Rover into a Ford isn't straightforward. I did watch a YouTube tutorial on how to do this, but decided that it was going to take too long. So I went pre-2000, so these are 1999 seats, and they are manual, which meant that they could just be fitted in with the manual levers and adjustments and work perfectly well. If you wanted to go down the electric route, that's completely up to you. I might do one day, but I don't think I'll attempt the electrics myself. I might get someone to install them for me. But yeah, I'm very pleased with these. I think they work. The armrests, you just screw the little thing underneath the armrest, and that basically goes up and down with your tilt of the chair. So if you lean your chair backwards, you've got to adjust the armrest, obviously. It's the same with all captain seats. Now, the final stage of this video is the electrics. This will take us into part 2. Basically, I've taken all the electrics out of the minibus. So there was lights, speakers, the wheelchair lift and things like that. So basically disconnected it all from the two. You have two batteries for a Ford Transit and they go under the seat. So I disconnected these from the Ford Transit batteries and they will be discarded with the other stuff that I took out. What I'm planning is a separate electrical system consisting of leisure batteries, solar panels, and things like that. So it's a completely separate system. You can have a split relay charger from the main vehicle to your leisure batteries. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet. But this will continue on part 2. Please subscribe and watch the next part when it appears. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.